harder to connect with the Cold War kind of things for me, but I mean, the fight sequences in that, and Charlize Theron is in it, and she's really good. You should watch it. I think you'll like it if you like these fights. Yeah, I think there's a really good balance in this. Now that you brought that up, I think you should watch it because I think that yes, she's a super agent, all this kind of stuff, and she's doing some crazy things, but she gets the crap kicked out of her too in this movie, and she's got to fight for it. So I think you'll like it. Maybe. Who knows? But I mean, it's got these same types of things in it that are really, really interesting. And using the environment around you is another thing that's in John Wick, grabbing something off the shelf, smashing somebody's head with it, throwing somebody into a wall or a table or bookshelf or a bar table or whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff uh, that happens. It's neat. Yeah, it's real good. And it's his car, right? I mean, it's that whole thing about his car and they establish his car so well in the beginning of the movie and then at the end, all that stuff happens. It's really really good. I mean, there's a couple of other things in here that I wanted to talk about, right? Like just moments that got me thinking this is really good. And one of them is the one-sided phone call that happens when John Wick calls the mob boss, or no, the mob boss calls him because he knows that he's going to go out and kill his son. And John Wick doesn't say a word, right? The entire phone call. It's like, 30-second phone call, and the mob boss is trying to talk to him. And then Mr. Mayhem, or whoever that guy is, who's probably my least favorite actor in the movie, but says to Vigo, what did he say? And then Vigo says, enough. Like he didn't say anything, but that's just such a great line. It's so good. Yeah, it's really good. But I do have a beef with one of the details in the movie. Well, maybe it's super realistic, and that's why I have a beef about it. Okay, in the very opening scene, he pulls the iPhone out, right? And he's watching, it's like a flash forward of where he's going to be, and he's watching the video of his wife, right? And it's like, supposed to set the scene like, he's going to die and he's watching this video of his wife, right? And then the second part of the video, it's portrait mode and not landscape mode when they're taking the video. And when people do that in real life, it drives me crazy.
Oh my
Because you get
goodness.
so much more real estate on your phone if you turn it landscape and take the video instead of portrait mode. And I'm like, come on, John Wick, you're taking a video. Do it landscape.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. It didn't even cross my mind. Didn't even cross my mind. So are you saying he didn't love his wife enough and that's why this hell was wrought upon him? Is that where we're going with this?
Yes, I think so. No, it drives me crazy and I notice things like that. But I'm saying maybe it is super realistic and they're going for people take videos on their phones the wrong way. There, enough said.
Because we're all going to die. So make sure that when you're getting that final little look at your loved one, it's no, not landscape portrait. I don't even know. It's long ways.
Kristen, you're setting me off over here.
I'm sorry, man. I mean, we all have those things, right? We all have those things. Like, I was telling my mom, she loves a good revenge movie, so I was telling her to check it out, but the thing is our family dog passed away a few months ago, and I was telling her to check it out, so it's like, just be aware, there's a dog death in the beginning. You might wanna give this a few months as we all kinda get over our dog
Yeah.
passing, but,
Oh, it is so hard to watch. I mean, it's very hard to watch. And that's
Yeah.
so unique for like an action movie like this to have a moment that's just so sad and very, I can't stand it. I want to get up there in John Wick's shoes. I can't stand that part where they hurt the dog. I hate it so much. But I mean, it makes the movie, it drives the movie forward. So I understand it. And I mean, I just think it's a really deep blow.
Dude, right? And it's one of those things where it keeps adding to the justification of the rampage. So it starts with the death of a puppy sent by his dead wife from the killed by the son of the man he put into power to get out and be with this wife. So in that sense, it's great. But then he goes after the son and he wants the son. That's all he wants. Is tit for tat kind of a thing. But Vigo keeps betraying him left and right. I'll give you my son. I won't give you my son. All right, I give you my son now that I can't kill you, but I'm going to kill your friend who betrayed me. And now it's just one after the other. Vigo just won't let things lie, won't let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah, he has to sleep in his own grave. I think he dug his own the whole movie Vigo. Um I mean, it's a perfect example of how you can make an audience connected with a character in the first 5 minutes, right? I mean, in the first 5 minutes of this movie, we are connected to John Wick. We're connected to his relationship with his wife. We are connected to this dog and what the dog means. And we're ready for whatever is the antagonizing moment that drives this movie. Because you wouldn't feel as bad if you weren't connected to these characters, right? Even the dog. I mean, there's moments where they feed the dog cereal, right? At the very beginning of the movie. It's just like a cute thing. He's got to go outside. He's a good dog. He's laying in his own bed on the first night at home. It's just so it connects you into this quickly and well.
Right, and then there's a happy ending for this character right at the start of the movie. But sadly, we all know the happy endings can't even do that. And speaking of unhappy endings, Willem Dafoe, I always forget he's in this movie. But I love Willem Dafoe. He's one of my favorite actors to watch. If I could watch any movie, it would be Willem Dafoe and Gary Oldman waiting for Godot. I'd love to see that.
You know, I do too. I like Willem Dafoe. I think this kind of relates to a topic that you have later on about the original script and the original thought for what John Wick would be. But I think that Willem Dafoe is too old. I think that he is
Oh.
too old for the movie because I don't think he can keep up in the action sequences in the way that John Wick can. So, or Keanu Reeves, I should say, can. We have set the scene for this movie that Keanu Reeves is a master assassin and he's like fast and agile, jumping on people, doing backflips, doing this stuff, getting people down, doing that. And then when Willem Dafoe's character is fighting for his life at the end, it feels slow. It feels old. It feels like he's not a master assassin. And yeah, he's not as good as John Wick, but Vigo goes to Willem Dafoe's character because he thinks he could kill John Wick. And it just doesn't feel like that for me in his performance.
Gotcha. So even the fact that they set him up as a sniper, someone from the shadows who's never supposed to get caught in the first place, kind of didn't tie that together for you?
That's a good point. I mean, I think maybe you're right a little bit. I don't know. I just didn't buy it. Maybe if I think about it hard enough, I can convince myself that it's okay.
Sure, sure.
But I think that, also there's a scene at the very beginning at the cemetery when it's raining, and I think it might be one of the least authentic interactions that happens
Oh.
in the movie where it's Willem Dafoe and Keanu Reeves talking to each other, and it sounds like a line reading from a rehearsal to me. So maybe that just sets me up bad for the whole movie. But let me tell you what, I think Ian McShane, who plays the hotel manager, is incredible. I think he's so good in everything that he does. He sounds good.
Yeah. Well, once I recognized where he was from 300, he's the father who loses his son and says, I filled my heart with hate. I've loved this man ever since that role, and now I see him everywhere. He's just a guy who dresses somewhat ruggedly, going from movie to movie, acting as that, like, right hand, super powerful guy that you would trust with everything.
Yeah, have you seen Deadwood on HBO?
I know what you're talking about, but I haven't watched Deadwood. Is he in that one?
Yeah, he's like the main guy in that. He's the main he owns a bar basically. I mean, it's the same but he's like evil. It's really good. He does a great job. Anytime I see him, I just think, man, and he was in one episode of Game of Thrones and he was great in that one episode. I mean, he's a good actor and he's got this like classical twang to what he's doing and like a classical approach that makes him sound real, believe it or not, to me. I mean, he sounds really good. I'm a huge fan of him.
Yeah, totally. And one of my favorite things I like to do is with my favorite actors. I like to imagine that they're just walking around, living their lives, and suddenly they wander onto the set and start doing their thing, and the directors are just filming it, and then they walk off. You know, it's just a day in the life of Ian McShane.
Yeah, really, really. That's an amazing thought. I mean, that's really how actors like Daniel Day-Lewis, they do their thing. They take that method in approach and they say, I'm just gonna live my life as Abraham Lincoln for the next 2 years. And then when I walk on set, I'm not acting. I'm just being me. I'm being Abraham Lincoln and I walk on stage. Now, is that healthy? Probably not. Is that great for your family? Probably not. Is that great for the movie? Hell yeah. Are you gonna win a bunch of Oscars and get paid a whole shitload of money? Hell yeah.
Right? Like, how far are you going to dedicate yourself to the craft? That's all it takes. It's, you know, it's practice, rehearsal, all that good stuff. Now, also, one of my favorite things. So in the bar, you get the drink on the house. Wick gets the drink on the house, and then there's a big kiss print on the paper towel, the napkin. I like to think that that was Ian McShane. He kissed it and then sent it over. That's probably one of my favorite, like, fan fiction-y things to add to John Wick.
Yeah, then he turns around and Ian McShane raises his glass to him like, "Hey, baby."
Makes a little kissy noise. Okay, so what were your thoughts? I thought this one was kind of, I guess they needed to trump up how evil Miss Perkins was. But what about that cop in the hotel that was asked to do the catch and release with Miss Perkins? And then he dies like 10 minutes later. We don't even
Yeah,
know who
what's
this
his
dude
name?
is.
What's his name? Because I really like him. I mean, down here with the other question, I think if you were going for an older John Wick, his persona would be great. I mean, I don't know what his character's name is, but I remember thinking that as I was watching it. And yeah, she's like a cliche kind of villain in this movie. The other characters are deeper, they feel better. She's like, just the evil for evil's sake. I'm gonna break the rules because of this kind of stuff, and I've got this evil kind of look. I'm not a huge fan of her role in the movie, but uh, I love that interaction when he comes out of the hotel room and he sees John Wick out there, and he's like, "Do I know you?" And then Keanu Reeves says, "I'm thinking yes," and he turns around and he's like, "Oh, hey, Bob," or whatever the guy's name is. He's like, you mind doing a little catch and release for a coin? And that brings me to my probably the coolest thing I like about this movie
Hmm.
is that they've created this world that someone like me, and I'm guessing someone like you, Kristen, I love the fact that they've created a world that is so deep that it has like its own currency. I think that's so neat. a cool idea that, you know, all these baddies out there, all these hitmen, all these assassins, all this kind of stuff, they have their own shared currency that's worth something to them. And when you get your house cleaned up by the cleanup crew, you know, you've got these coins that you're paying with, or if you want to stay in a hotel or go to the special bar or do these kinds of things, you got these coins. I love the idea. I love it.
Dude, right. And again, that show Don't Tell, we're never told anything about these coins. We're left to infer what they're about and how much they're worth. And one of the best scenes showing that is when we look into Vigo's safe, right? And we see his collection of coins. And we understand that he is wealthy and he is powerful. And we see how many he has. And then not a few seconds later, we jump to John Wick's collection and we see what he has. And we get it. We understand that these two are forces, because you're not going to amass that much money without being some kind of human typhoon, if I can be so bold.
Oh, absolutely. I just love the currency of this. And it goes on into the second John Wick, and you know, it's going on into the Netflix series that's about this universe and stuff. I just think it's really neat. It almost plays like the gamer instinct inside of me, right? I just think it would be a great video game thing, right? You have a hub, it's the hotel. You're out there, you're making these coins, but they're super rare. And if you want to go do a job and you want somebody to come help you on the job, you have to pay them in a coin. I just think it's neat.
Yeah, dude, right. And I think, I mean, if we're going into video games, Witcher 3, I think really, really kind of did that super well, because you're a Witcher. But instead of being, you know, sexy and rich and you got all these wonderful, cool things, it's the opposite of that. And everyone spits on you, but they need you to assassinate monsters.
Yeah, I'm playing The Witcher 3 again right now, and it's really, really good.
Oh, it's so good, so good. Oh, blood and wine. All right, okay. So the last thing I guess I wanted to talk about is I read that the original script, it was planned for John Wick to be in his 70s. Like, he's old, retired, ex-assassin. And I know there are movies that have done this before, where we have an older guy who comes back. And there's even a country song, I may not be as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. So that whole idea that, you know, you can't go for as long as you could, but if you're called back for one more job, it's like nothing changed. So how do you think that would have affected the story, and who would you have chosen?
I think it would have been a very different story, right? If it was an older person. I think we wouldn't have felt as deeply for John Wick when his wife passes away, right? Assuming that she is older, right? I mean, this is like tragic because they're in the like prime of their life and this happens. So I think it would have been a different story. I think they would have had to take a different road in a way. Also, I feel like it would have been much different with the action sequences. Obviously, we talked about that already. If it's an older guy in his 70s, it would be tough. So it would have been different action wise, and there probably would have been a whole lot more stunt doubles. But if I'm going to cast this, I mean, it's hard to get away from like a Harrison Ford idea.
That was my first thought too. It was like, well, he's already done the get off my plane deal, so.
Yeah, but then I started to think a little bit more outside the box. Believe it or not, my outside the box idea is like Clint Eastwood, but he's probably too old. And the same for Robert Redford. But I would have liked to see it when those guys were in that age range, right? They would have been really good. Just mean. Clint Eastwood and Keanu Reeves almost have the same kind of just mean sort of line delivery in a way. You know, he's got that. And Robert Redford probably would have acted the shit out of that. So I think that, you know, that's in the realm. But Harrison Ford's like, if you had to cast it today, he'd be up there with my choices.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. And okay, so here's something that just popped in my head. Assuming Marlon Brando stayed fit through his older years, do you think he could have done something like this?
Yeah, why not? I mean, again, I think any of these people that you cast is going to make it a very different movie. Think about it with Harrison Ford, right? You're turning into Blade Runner 2049. Think about it with Clint Eastwood. You're turning into like a Gran Torino kind of thing, right? Or Robert Redford, right? I mean, Robert Redford is it's super talented director, super talented actor. I mean, Captain America Winter Soldier, right? He's in that and he's very good at playing this like evil overlord kind of person. I mean, so it would have been a different movie there too with the Keanu Reeves. I mean, and would it have been successful? Probably. I don't know. I mean, Keanu Reeves's version of this turned out to be a hit. So they obviously made the right change.
Yeah, I've got a theory going on this Robert Redford thing that I feel like I should share now before it never gets shared. So The Sting. If you really want to watch Robert Redford in his prime, The Sting is a great, great film. One of those where you're not sure how it's going to end because you don't know who you can trust and if the operation is going to go off. Ocean's 11 kind of a thing is the feel. So it stars Paul Newman and it stars Robert Redford. And if you look at these guys when they're younger, Robert Redford and Brad Pitt look a lot alike. Paul Newman and George Clooney. So when I think what happens in Hollywood is a lot of the time when a very popular actor is getting too old, they find someone that looks like that actor to see if maybe the look can continue. This is a tinfoil hat theory I have going on, but go back and watch The Sting and you tell me the remade Ocean's 11 isn't
my mind is blown. This is true. People like what they like, right? There's an aesthetic thing. And also Hollywood kind of tells people what they like, right? And those two guys, the two pairs of those guys, very similar. I had never thought of that. And if you're looking for another good Paul Newman, Robert Redford movie, obviously Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I think that's in my top 10 movies of all time. I love that movie.
Oh yeah, and those two, they're a great pairing. It doesn't matter what movie they're in as long as they're together. Clearly they had fun together and they really feed off of each other's energy. All right. Yeah. Well, I have a challenge for you, Jeff. What insult would drive you back into the business? But I guess first, what business did you get out of in the first place?
Oh, I don't know. This is hard. I mean, it's hard because I immediately go to the dog thing. Like if somebody hurt my dog, it would be like I don't know. It pisses me off. That whole dog thing makes me actually mad. And it's crazy, right? But hurting somebody that you care about or doing something that you think is completely immoral or things like that. It's a different, I don't know. I guess the business, I don't know.
Yeah, let's start there. Okay. So yeah, I know. Well, that's the hard part, right? What business is immoral but also not immoral and still sexy? Because you don't want to say something like dog fighting because that's just terrible. Why would you fight dogs? That's not fun. That's not sexy. Underground kickboxing?
Yeah, maybe like Fight Club or something like that.
You got out of the Fight Club ring and then they mess with your reality, so you start imagining a secondary person and you're drawn back in.
That's right. I mean, it's hard because this movie does it so well, right? Because you want to say, well, I want to be an assassin for the mob that's retired and gets married, and then somebody comes and hurts my dog, so I go on a killing spree because they mess with my dog. Because it's so good. It's a very, very well done and well thought out and original. I think it's neat. Yeah. What about you, Kristen? What do you want to be?
Oh, I know. That's what do I want to be? I like the whole sniper thing. That was cool. So like you're in the shadows and nobody can really catch you. But what draws you back into being a sniper? Anything family related, I think, is a pretty good thing. And like you mentioned, you're still in the prime of your life. It's not some retiree kind of thing because it's got to connect with you. And what's something we all share? Family, right?
Yeah, a family or friends or, it's good.
All right, you get to be called in for a fight scene that's choreographed by a famous stunt choreographer for a YouTube short. What kind of choreographed scene do you do?
Oh, I mean, this is a good question. This question I can actually answer. I think that the whole Matrix fight scene where he fights in multiple styles, right? Because there's a difference between the John Wick combat and the Matrix combat, right? In the Matrix world, we're living in this fantasy world. In John Wick, his gun jams, or he runs out of bullets, or he does this crazy thing, right? So I think the combination of those two worlds where everything is realistic so that I look even more like a badass because it looks real, but I'm fighting in like a million different styles of combat, and they even call it out in whatever dialogue we're having in this scene. Like, whoa, you're cool. You're fighting in all these different styles of
Oh, so kind
combat.
of like an anime when they get into their new pose and they go on for 5 minutes about how they're like, oh, I see you using such and such. That's really cool, but can it really match my X and X, which I'm about to
Yeah.
release upon you?
Yes. I'm down. Absolutely. What about you?
Um, so what I loved about the Bucky fight with Steve Rogers in Winter Soldier is that it starts with range weapons and then it just gets grittier and grittier as they get closer and closer until they finally get into that really dirty fisticuffs. That doesn't really fit the language I was going for, but those dirty fisticuffs. So something like that where it starts off with range and then the weapons become shorter and shorter range until eventually it's just a nasty, nasty brawl.
Love it. I mean, the talk about amazing fight choreography. I still stand by that the scene with the SUV and Samuel L. Jackson in The Winter Soldier is probably the best moment in Marvel. I mean, it's the best action moment in Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think.
Yeah, also
I,
and if you hear it's Jim Raynor narrating. Well,
it's
not
so good.
narrating, but so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so you're an assassin. What time period are you an assassin in? I guess what place too, right? Because that kind of affects it.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm gonna go back to my coveted time period here. The whole World War II kind of like
Oh,
assassin in World War II kind of thing. And I just started playing Battlefield 5, which I'm having a lot of fun with. And it's making me want to watch Band of Brothers again and all these World War II, stuff. I just dig that time period a lot. So that would be cool. But also like medieval assassin. That's kind of a cool idea too. What do you think?
I like Victorian England. I think that's the one time period, like the last time period where you could really kind of get away with everything. And so I think that would just really kind of lend to some solid assassinations.
Yeah, and without technology, right? You watch these James Bond movies and they've got guns that only fire if you've got the right fingerprint and watch lasers and all this stuff. But if you go back to these time periods that we're talking about, you got to be good at what you're doing. And that's what makes John Wick cool because he's not really using technology, he's just a badass.
Yeah. There's nothing crazy in this. It's very grounded in reality, as funny as that is to say in such a choreographed film. But yeah, there's nothing fantastical about it. It's just
Yeah.
cool. All right, well, if you like John Wick, Jeff, what are some other films we can recommend to these wonderful listeners?
So from my list, I've got I was thinking, obviously, kind of like you were, Kristen, about like revenge stories, and like you said, your mom is really into revenge movies. So I had to dig deep because some revenge movies are pretty cringy, like not very good, not
Yeah.
very intense or in the right sorts of way. So The Revenant is a good revenge movie. Uh, geez, be ready for some hard to watch
That's
moments if you end up
intense.
watching. Yeah, The Revenant. Also, Man on Fire, who Denzel Washington is in this movie, and it is super good. I mean, I think he does a really great job in that. And then, of course, you got films like Gangs of New York or Gladiator, right? Where you've got this revenge story that builds up. I'm not a huge fan of Gladiator, believe it or not, but I do think that it tells a good story. So those are mine. What about yours, Kristen?
Funny enough, I enjoy Taken. I don't think it's the best movie ever, but it's a very comfy, solid action flick. It tells the story you're expecting, and Liam Neeson's a hoot. I love that actor so much. So
Oh, I do too. I like Liam Neeson a lot. I like him a lot. If you want to watch him in sort of different kind of role. There's a film called Michael Collins, and it's about the Irish Revolution, and he plays Michael Collins, and it's actually a really interesting history lesson if you don't know the story of that whole revolution. But B, he does a really good job, and it's a different type of role that he kind of plays in there. So yeah.
Cool. Jack Reacher, I would definitely suggest, but I think we're Tom Cruise fans here. And I was surprised with how much I enjoyed Jack Reacher. I wasn't expecting too much with it, but this is fun from start to finish. I don't know if you'd
I
come as
can't
good.
get behind this next one. I can't.
Con Air.
Woo.
It's just so legendary as a film, and the accent alone is and his body is a lethal weapon. So it's a revenge story with a happy ending, and it's worth every second. And then of course Kill Bill volumes 1 and 2.
Yeah, the penultimate revenge story, I think. Kill Bill.
Right.
Con Air, Kristen. Con Air.
Sometimes you just gotta throw it in there, because if people haven't seen it, it's time to see it.
You should absolutely see it one time.
It's a collective experience that we all need to revel in. And
Absolutely.
John Wick, will it stand the test of time?
I say yes, only because of movies that just do things well, and it does everything well. It's just does it all, above average everything. And I think that it shows people, if the action movie industry is watching people's reaction to John Wick, they should be noticing that it's the story, the performances, and the connections that drive action movies that make people want to watch them. Not to mention all of the behind the scenes work. But I think a lot of action movies rely on the stunts, the behind the scenes work, and they don't spend enough time focusing on the connections that the audience have with these characters. And then again, it depends on the type of movie that you're going to see, right? Because I like to go and see like the newest Mission Impossible film. I have zero connection to these characters. In the end of the film, there's this whole thing that happens with his ex-wife and all this stuff. I don't care. I just want to go and turn my brain off and watch these stunts and watch Tom Cruise do these crazy stunts, right? But when you watch John Wick, you care. So that's mine. What about you, Kristen? You think it'll stand the test of time?
Absolutely. I don't know if it'll take the forefront like a lot of movies have, because financially, I don't think it was a huge breakaway hit, which I believe a lot of movies are based on. But when it comes to just solid movies being created in a time when CGI is just, it can feel runaway. It's nice to see that there are still dedicated people working on the craft of combining the CGI and the actual choreography to create something that's still just as engaging now as I think it'll be in years to come.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's it for John Wick. What's next?
Next? What is next, Kristen? I got to scroll down here. Oh, that's right. I'm stoked about this one. The Usual Suspects is the next film that we're watching. You can watch it on Amazon Prime. You can watch it anywhere that you're out there. This is one that you may not have seen at home. So join the movie club with us, basically, and watch this movie and come talk about it with us. And make sure that you start watching the show live. That way you can interact in the chat. We have an awesome chat room as well. So The Usual Suspects is up next. I'm pumped.
Yeah, and I would say watch it just because of the effect it had on pop culture for a bit. As soon as you see The Usual Suspects, you are definitely going to note a lot of comedies that ripped off what happens at the end of this movie. I mean, if anything, it was a success because it became this cult classic kind of a thing.
Yeah. Jeez, we've been watching some good movies. I love doing this show with you because I get to watch all these awesome movies over and over and over again.
I know, right? We only choose the good ones, the cream of the crop. Who needs to watch the silly ones when you've got the good ones? All right, and if you'd like to share your thoughts, send us your favorite part or parts about The Usual Suspects and email us at talkingpicturesalliance@gmail.com or tweet us at TPAcast. Jeff, where can people find you when you're not here?
You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Jeff Reynolds, where we're talking about a whole lot of different weird fun stuff. So come join the fun.
The most recent one was great about the Alliance and losing all the battlegrounds.
It's been a recent challenge for me. I have to admit, I am not good at PvP at all. So anytime I go in there, I'm kind of expecting to lose, but it's exactly like that. I found that and I thought it was really funny.
So do you not walk around with war mode on?
I do, just because,
Oh!
I want to play the game on, the hard mode. So I like to go around and, I am that guy that gets groups together and we go out there and try to, take out the opposing faction as we keep fighting. But yeah, it's more like the battlegrounds and stuff. I'm just bad. It's my problem. It's my own problem.
Well, as long as you're having fun, though, right? As long as you're
That's
having
right.
fun. If you're looking for me, you can find me at _Kristen Ashton _ Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. And as for this show, you can find us right here, twitch.tv/Dream Destroyer, DRMDESTRYR, every other Sunday for more movie madness. We'll be back December 2nd with the usual suspects. And if you'd like to support this podcast, head on over to patreon.com/TPAcast. Final words, Jeff?
Everything's got a price.